Question 1. The assessment process reveals that a candidate demonstrates strong potential for leadership and community involvement, evidenced by extensive extracurricular activities, but their performance on a recent standardized academic aptitude test was below the university's typical benchmark. Which approach best aligns with the principles of a holistic and equitable university admissions process? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review that includes the standardized test score, an essay evaluating critical thinking and analytical skills, and a structured interview to assess communication and problem-solving abilities, alongside their extracurricular achievements. Option B. Prioritize the candidate's demonstrated leadership and community involvement, admitting them based on these strengths, and offer remedial support for academic deficiencies. Option C. Reject the candidate solely based on their standardized academic aptitude test score, as it indicates a lack of preparedness for the university's academic rigor. Option D. Admit the candidate based on their extracurricular achievements and recommend they take a gap year to improve their standardized test scores before enrolling. Correct answer is B. Prioritize the candidate's demonstrated leadership and community involvement, admitting them based on these strengths, and offer remedial support for academic deficiencies. Explanation. The assessment process for university entrance exams, particularly at institutions like the American University in Dubai, is designed to evaluate a candidate's aptitude and suitability beyond mere academic scores. This scenario presents a challenge, because it requires discerning the most appropriate method for evaluating a candidate's potential fit for the university's academic environment and values, rather than testing specific subject knowledge. The core of the challenge lies in selecting an assessment approach that is fair, comprehensive, and aligned with the university's stated objectives for its incoming students. The correct approach involves a multifaceted evaluation that combines academic preparedness with an assessment of critical thinking, communication skills, and alignment with the university's values. This is best practice because it provides a holistic view of the candidate. Regulatory frameworks for university admissions, while not always codified in the same way as financial regulations, emphasize fairness, non-discrimination, and the selection of candidates most likely to succeed and contribute to the academic community. Ethical considerations dictate that the assessment should be transparent and relevant to the skills and attributes needed for university-level study. A comprehensive approach, such as one that includes standardized academic tests, essays demonstrating analytical writing, and interviews assessing communication and problem-solving, directly addresses these principles by providing multiple data points to inform the admissions decision. An approach that relies solely on a single, high-stakes standardized test, while common, is professionally flawed because it may not capture the full spectrum of a candidate's abilities or potential. It can disproportionately disadvantage candidates who excel in other areas or who experience test anxiety, failing to provide a truly equitable assessment. Another incorrect approach, focusing exclusively on extracurricular achievements without considering academic foundation, is also problematic. While extracurriculars demonstrate valuable traits like leadership and teamwork, they do not guarantee the academic rigor required for university-level coursework. This approach risks admitting students who may struggle with the academic demands of the program. Finally, an approach that prioritizes subjective impressions from a brief, unstructured interaction, without any standardized academic or analytical component, is highly susceptible to bias and lacks the rigor necessary for a fair and defensible admissions decision. It fails to provide objective evidence of a candidate's readiness for higher education. Professionals involved in university admissions should employ a decision-making process that prioritizes a balanced and evidence-based evaluation. This involves understanding the university's mission and desired graduate attributes, designing assessment methods that directly measure these qualities, and ensuring that the process is applied consistently and fairly to all applicants. The goal is to identify candidates who not only meet academic thresholds, but also possess the intellectual curiosity, resilience, and ethical grounding to thrive in the university environment. Question 2. Research into the American University in Dubai's entrance examination process reveals a situation where a close family friend's child is applying for admission. The applicant has performed adequately but not exceptionally on the standardized components of the entrance exam. The family friend has expressed a strong desire for their child to attend AUD and has alluded to their influence within certain business circles. What is the most appropriate course of action for an individual involved in the admissions process? Option A. Consider the applicant's potential future contributions to the university and the wider community, factoring in the family-friends connections, to provide a more holistic assessment that might lead to admission despite a less than stellar exam performance. Option B. Advocate for a review of the applicant's application by a higher admissions committee, highlighting the family-friend's influential background, to see if special consideration can be granted due to potential future benefits to the university. Option C. Inform the family friend about the applicant's current standing and suggest that additional tutoring or preparation specifically targeted at the exam's weaknesses might improve their chances while still maintaining the integrity of the evaluation process. Option D. Strictly adhere to the American University in Dubai's published admissions criteria and policies, evaluating the applicant solely on their merits as demonstrated through the entrance exam and other required documentation, without any consideration of external influence or personal relationships. The correct answer is D. Strictly adhere to the American University in Dubai's published admissions criteria and policies, evaluating the applicant solely on their merits as demonstrated through the entrance exam and other required documentation, without any consideration of external influence or personal relationships. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an individual to navigate the ethical and regulatory landscape of academic admissions, specifically concerning the American University in Dubai AUD entrance exam. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to fair and transparent admissions with the pressure to admit qualified candidates, while strictly adhering to AUD's established policies and the relevant UAE educational regulations. Misinterpreting or circumventing these guidelines can lead to compromised academic integrity, unfair advantages, and potential legal or reputational damage to the university. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and application of the American University in Dubai's official admissions policies and procedures, as well as any overarching UAE Ministry of Education guidelines pertaining to university entrance examinations. This approach prioritizes fairness, meritocracy, and adherence to established rules. Specifically, it means ensuring that all applicants are evaluated based on the same objective criteria, that no special favors are granted, and that the integrity of the examination process is maintained. This aligns with ethical principles of fairness and transparency in education and regulatory requirements for standardized admissions processes. An incorrect approach that involves providing preferential treatment or altering examination criteria for a specific applicant, even if they are a relative or acquaintance, represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This violates the principle of equal opportunity and can be construed as a breach of trust and academic integrity. Such actions undermine the credibility of the admissions process and could lead to disciplinary action, including dismissal and potential legal repercussions under UAE law governing educational institutions. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore or downplay the importance of the official admissions policies, perhaps by relying on informal understandings or personal discretion. This demonstrates a lack of professionalism and a disregard for the structured framework designed to ensure fairness and consistency. It can lead to arbitrary decision-making, which is not only unprofessional but also likely to contravene regulatory expectations for standardized testing and admissions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear commitment to upholding the established policies and regulations of the institution. This includes seeking clarification on any ambiguities, documenting all decisions and justifications, and recusing oneself from any situation where a conflict of interest might arise. Professionals must prioritize ethical conduct and regulatory compliance above personal relationships or perceived pressures, ensuring that all actions are defensible and aligned with the best interests of the institution and its commitment to academic excellence. Question 3. Benchmark analysis indicates that a prospective student's submitted essay for the American University in Dubai entrance exam contains several passages that closely resemble content found on external academic websites, with no clear citations or quotation marks. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the university's regulatory framework for academic integrity? Option A. Focusing solely on the applicant's overall academic record and extracurricular achievements, considering the essay as a less critical component of the entrance evaluation. Option B, assuming that the applicant's intent was not malicious and that the similarities are coincidental, proceeding with the application review without further inquiry. Option C, acknowledging the similarities and requesting the applicant to provide proper citations for the borrowed content, while noting the importance of academic honesty in the feedback. Option D, flagging the submission as potential plagiarism and initiating a formal review process according to the university's academic misconduct policy, which may involve contacting the applicant for clarification. The correct answer is C, acknowledging the similarities and requesting the applicant to provide proper citations for the borrowed content, while noting the importance of academic honesty in the feedback. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected at a reputable institution like the American University in Dubai. The challenge lies in discerning between genuine academic effort and actions that constitute plagiarism or academic dishonesty, which can have severe consequences for both the student and the university. Careful judgment is required to identify the subtle nuances of academic misconduct. The correct approach involves accurately identifying instances of plagiarism by comparing the submitted work against original sources and university policies. This approach represents best professional practice because it directly aligns with the American University in Dubai's commitment to academic integrity, as outlined in its student handbook and academic regulations. These regulations typically define plagiarism as the use of another person's ideas, words, or work without proper attribution, and mandate strict penalties for such offenses. Adhering to these policies ensures fairness, upholds the value of academic credentials, and maintains the university's reputation. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking minor similarities or assuming that paraphrasing without citation is acceptable fails to meet the university's standards for academic honesty. This is a regulatory failure because it disregards the explicit definitions of plagiarism provided by the university, which often include paraphrasing without attribution as a form of academic dishonesty. Ethically, it is a failure to uphold the principles of intellectual honesty and respect for original work. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the applicant's self-declaration of originality without independent verification is also professionally unacceptable. This represents a failure to implement due diligence as required by academic institutions. The university has a responsibility to ensure the authenticity of submitted work, and a passive acceptance of self-declarations without any form of scrutiny is a dereliction of this duty. It creates an environment where academic dishonesty can go undetected, undermining the integrity of the admissions process and the academic standards of the university. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of submitted materials against established academic integrity policies. This includes understanding the definitions of plagiarism, collusion, and other forms of academic misconduct as defined by the institution. When evaluating submitted work, professionals should look for evidence of unacknowledged borrowing of ideas, text, or data. If potential issues are identified, a thorough comparison with original sources is necessary. In cases of doubt, seeking clarification from academic advisors or referring to the university's official academic integrity guidelines is crucial. The ultimate goal is to ensure that all applicants are evaluated fairly and that the university upholds its commitment to academic excellence and ethical conduct. Question 4. Comparative studies suggest that students preparing for competitive university entrance exams often face ethical dilemmas regarding the acquisition of study materials and assistance. Considering the specific regulatory framework and guidelines for the American University in Dubai entrance exam, which of the following approaches best reflects professional ethical conduct and adherence to the exam's integrity? Option A. Proactively contacting the American University in Dubai admissions office to inquire about official study guides, recommended preparation resources, and clarification on any permissible forms of external academic support. Option B. Purchasing a comprehensive set of past exam papers from an unverified third-party vendor that claims to have insider information on the exam content. Option C. Relying solely on general online study forums and unofficial study groups that may offer advice and practice materials not vetted by the American University in Dubai. Option D. collaborating with a group of fellow applicants to collectively solve practice questions, sharing answers and strategies without explicit university approval for group study. The correct answer is A. Proactively contacting the American University in Dubai admissions office to inquire about official study guides, recommended preparation resources, and clarification on any permissible forms of external academic support. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well on an entrance exam, especially for a prestigious institution like the American University in Dubai, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. The core of the challenge lies in upholding the principles of honesty and meritocracy while navigating the competitive landscape of university admissions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any assistance sought or provided aligns with ethical standards and the specific regulatory framework governing the American University in Dubai's entrance examination process. The correct approach involves seeking clarification and legitimate academic support directly from the American University in Dubai's admissions office or designated academic advisors. This approach upholds academic integrity by ensuring that all candidates are assessed on their own merits and knowledge. It aligns with the ethical guidelines of educational institutions, which prioritize fairness and honesty in admissions. Specifically, it adheres to the implicit understanding within the American University in Dubai's examination framework that all submitted work must be the original effort of the applicant, free from unauthorized external assistance. This proactive and transparent method ensures compliance with the university's stated policies on academic conduct and admissions. An incorrect approach would be to engage in any form of unauthorized collaboration or to seek pre-existing answers to the exam questions. This directly violates the principles of academic integrity and the specific rules of the American University in Dubai's entrance examination, which are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment of each candidate's abilities. Such actions constitute academic dishonesty, which can lead to disqualification from the admissions process and potential future academic repercussions. Furthermore, relying on external, unauthorized sources undermines the purpose of the entrance exam, which is to gauge an individual's foundational knowledge and potential for success at the university. Another incorrect approach would be to misrepresent one's qualifications or prior academic achievements to gain an advantage. This is a form of deception that erodes trust and violates the ethical standards expected of all members of the academic community. The American University in Dubai's admissions process relies on the accuracy and truthfulness of the information provided by applicants. Any deviation from this principle compromises the integrity of the admissions decision and the university's reputation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the examination's rules and the university's academic integrity policies. When faced with uncertainty or pressure, the first step should always be to seek clarification through official channels. This involves consulting the admissions handbook, the university website, or directly contacting the admissions department. If the situation involves potential ethical dilemmas, professionals should err on the side of caution and choose the path that upholds the highest standards of honesty and integrity, even if it requires more effort or time. This proactive and principled stance is crucial for maintaining professional credibility and ensuring fair outcomes. Question 5. Process analysis reveals that a student preparing for their entrance exam at the American University in Dubai has previously completed a research paper on a topic that is highly relevant to a potential essay question in the exam. The student is considering submitting a significantly revised version of this past paper as their answer to the exam question, believing their prior effort and research make this a strategic advantage. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of academic integrity expected by the American University in Dubai for its entrance exam? Option A. Incorporate key ideas and findings from the previous research paper into the new answer without explicit acknowledgement, believing it demonstrates continuity of thought. Option B. Submit a substantially revised version of the previous research paper, assuming that significant alterations make it original enough for the exam. Option C. Proactively consult with the exam administrator or relevant university official to understand the policy on using previously generated work for the entrance exam and seek explicit permission if necessary. Option D. Reuse the previous research paper with minor edits, assuming that the effort invested in the original work should be recognized. Correct answer is C. Proactively consult with the exam administrator or relevant university official to understand the policy on using previously generated work for the entrance exam and seek explicit permission if necessary. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in academic setting where students may seek to leverage existing work for new assignments. The professional challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the student's desire to demonstrate their learning efficiently. Misinterpreting or misapplying academic policies can lead to accusations of plagiarism, undermining the student's academic record and the university's reputation. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate reuse of one's own prior work and academic misconduct. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a student proactively seeking clarification from the instructor regarding the university's policy on self-plagiarism and the specific expectations for the current assignment. This demonstrates an understanding of academic honesty and a commitment to adhering to the rules. The American University in Dubai (AUD) entrance exam, like most academic institutions, emphasizes originality and proper attribution. Reusing substantial portions of previously submitted work without explicit permission or acknowledgement, even if it is the student's own work, can be considered a form of academic dishonesty under policies designed to ensure that each submitted piece of work represents the student's current understanding and effort. By consulting the instructor, the student ensures they are acting in accordance with AUD's academic integrity guidelines, which typically require that all submitted work be original for the specific course or assignment, unless otherwise permitted. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach where the student assumes it is acceptable to reuse their previous work without any consultation is incorrect, because it disregards the principle of originality expected in academic submissions. Universities, including AUD, often have specific policies against self-plagiarism, viewing it as a way to circumvent the learning process and submit work that does not reflect current effort or understanding. This approach risks violating academic integrity policies. Another incorrect approach is to subtly incorporate previous work without any acknowledgement, hoping it will go unnoticed. This is ethically unsound and constitutes academic dishonesty. It misrepresents the student's current engagement with the material and undermines the assessment process. Such an action directly contravenes the spirit and letter of academic integrity policies. Finally, an approach where the student decides to significantly alter the previous work without seeking guidance and then submits it as new is also problematic. While alteration might seem like a way to make it new, if the core ideas and structure remain largely the same without proper acknowledgement, it can still be viewed as a form of academic dishonesty, especially if the original work was not intended for reuse in this context. The university's policies are designed to ensure that each assignment is a genuine reflection of the student's current learning and effort. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic settings must always prioritize academic integrity. When faced with situations involving the reuse of prior work, the decision-making process should involve 1. Understanding the university's specific academic integrity policy, particularly concerning self-plagiarism. 2. Proactively seeking clarification from the instructor or relevant academic authority when ambiguity exists. 3. Acting transparently and ethically, ensuring all submitted work is original or properly attributed according to established guidelines. This proactive and transparent approach safeguards both the student's academic standing and the university's commitment to academic excellence. Question 6. Regulatory review indicates that an applicant for the American University in Dubai (AUD) entrance exam is the nephew of a faculty member who is part of the admissions committee. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct approach for the applicant to take regarding this familial connection? Option A. The applicant should only disclose the familial relationship to the admissions committee after receiving an admission decision. Option B. The applicant should proceed with the application without mentioning the relationship, assuming it will not influence the admissions committee's decision. Option C. The applicant should immediately and proactively inform the AUD admissions committee of the familial relationship, requesting that the involved faculty member recuse themselves from any decision-making concerning their application. Option D. The applicant should ask their faculty relative to speak with other admissions committee members on their behalf to ensure their application is considered favorably. The correct answer is C. The applicant should immediately and proactively inform the AUD Admissions Committee of the familial relationship, requesting that the involved faculty member recuse themselves from any decision-making concerning their application. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the ethical and regulatory considerations inherent in academic admissions, specifically within the context of the American University in Dubai (AUD) entrance exam framework. The challenge lies in navigating potential conflicts of interest and ensuring fairness and integrity in the admissions process, which are paramount in any educational institution. Careful judgment is required to uphold these principles. The correct approach involves proactively disclosing the familial relationship to the admissions committee. This demonstrates transparency and adherence to ethical standards by avoiding any perception of undue influence or bias. It allows the admissions committee to implement appropriate safeguards, such as recusal of the involved faculty member from the decision-making process, thereby ensuring a fair and objective evaluation of the applicant's qualifications. This aligns with general principles of academic integrity and conflict of interest policies commonly found in university regulations, which prioritize fairness and impartiality in admissions. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the application without disclosure, hoping the relationship remains unnoticed. This constitutes an ethical failure as it conceals a potential conflict of interest, undermining the integrity of the admissions process and violating the trust placed in applicants to act honorably. It also creates a situation where the applicant might benefit from an unfair advantage, which is contrary to the principles of merit-based admissions. Another incorrect approach would be to only disclose the relationship after the applicant has been admitted. While disclosure is made, doing so after the decision has been reached is too late to prevent potential bias or the appearance of impropriety. This approach fails to address the conflict of interest proactively and may lead to questions about the validity of the admission decision, potentially requiring a review or even rescission of the offer. A third incorrect approach would be to ask the relative to advocate for the applicant's admission. This directly exploits the familial relationship for personal gain, creating a clear conflict of interest and compromising the objectivity of the admissions committee. It is an unethical practice that undermines the fairness of the process and can lead to reputational damage for both the applicant and the university. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to transparency and ethical conduct. When faced with a potential conflict of interest, the first step is to identify it. Subsequently, one must consider the relevant university policies and ethical guidelines. The most prudent course of action is always to disclose the situation to the appropriate authority, allowing them to manage the conflict effectively and ensure the integrity of the process. This proactive disclosure is a cornerstone of professional responsibility in academic and professional settings. Question 7. Consider a scenario where an applicant for the American University in Dubai's entrance examination is struggling with a particular section that requires analytical writing. They have a friend who is a strong writer and has previously excelled in similar academic tasks. The applicant is contemplating asking their friend for suggestions on how to structure their essay, or even for some phrasing ideas to improve their response. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for the applicant in this situation? Option A. The applicant should use online resources or pre-written essay templates that are not explicitly permitted during the examination to help formulate their arguments and improve their writing style. Option B. The applicant should independently complete the writing section, relying solely on their own knowledge and skills, and if they encounter difficulties, they should focus on doing their best with the resources and understanding they possess. Option C. The applicant should inform the examination proctor that they are struggling and request assistance from a designated university staff member to help them complete the writing section. Option D. The applicant should discreetly ask their friend for specific advice on essay structure and phrasing to enhance their response, rationalizing that it is merely seeking guidance and not direct answers. The correct answer is B. The applicant should independently complete the writing section, relying solely on their own knowledge and skills, and if they encounter difficulties, they should focus on doing their best with the resources and understanding they possess. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to academic integrity and the ethical responsibilities of an applicant during the American University in Dubai Aud entrance examination process. The challenge lies in balancing the applicant's desire to present their best self with the university's need for authentic and unassisted work to accurately assess their suitability. Careful judgment is required to uphold the principles of honesty and fairness inherent in academic admissions. The correct approach involves the applicant independently completing the entrance examination tasks without any external assistance. This aligns with AUD's commitment to academic integrity, as outlined in its admissions policies and general ethical guidelines for academic institutions. By working independently, the applicant demonstrates their own abilities, knowledge, and critical thinking skills, which are the primary objectives of the entrance exam. This approach respects the rules of the examination and ensures a fair assessment for all applicants. An incorrect approach would be to seek or accept assistance from a tutor or friend to complete parts of the examination. This constitutes academic dishonesty and violates the fundamental principles of fair assessment. It misrepresents the applicant's true capabilities and undermines the validity of the entrance examination as a measure of their readiness for university-level study. Such an action would be a direct contravention of AUD's expected standards of ethical conduct and could lead to disqualification. Another incorrect approach would be to use pre-written answers or materials that were not permitted during the examination. This is a form of plagiarism and cheating, which are serious academic offenses. It demonstrates a lack of integrity and an unwillingness to engage with the material honestly. This approach not only deceives the university, but also deprives the applicant of the opportunity to learn and grow through genuine effort. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a clear understanding of the examination rules and ethical expectations. Applicants should always prioritize honesty and self-reliance. If there is any ambiguity regarding what constitutes acceptable assistance or resources, it is imperative to seek clarification from the admissions office before the examination. The guiding principle should be to ensure that all submitted work is a true reflection of one's own efforts and abilities. Question 8. The performance metrics show a significant number of applications flagged for potential academic dishonesty during the review process. The admissions committee is deliberating on how to proceed with an applicant whose submitted essay contains substantial plagiarized content discovered through the university's plagiarism detection software. The committee is aware of the university's commitment to academic integrity, but also faces pressure to meet enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for the American University in Dubai's admissions process? Option A. Proceed with admitting the applicant while noting the plagiarism internally to avoid jeopardizing enrollment targets. Option B. Immediately reject the application based on the confirmed plagiarism without further communication with the applicant. Option C. Initiate a formal review process according to AUD's academic integrity policy, providing the applicant with an opportunity to respond to the findings before making a final decision. Option D. Issue a warning to the applicant about plagiarism and admit them, assuming it was an unintentional mistake. Correct answer is B. Immediately reject the application based on the confirmed plagiarism without further communication with the applicant. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's stated commitment to academic integrity with the practical pressures of student recruitment and retention. The admissions committee must make a judgment that upholds the university's standards without unfairly penalizing a student whose circumstances might warrant consideration. The core of the challenge lies in interpreting the university's policies on academic honesty and determining the appropriate response to a detected instance of plagiarism, considering the potential impact on the applicant's future and the university's reputation. The correct approach involves a thorough, fair, and transparent review process that adheres strictly to the American University in Dubai's established academic integrity policies. This approach requires gathering all relevant information, providing the applicant with an opportunity to respond to the allegations, and making a decision based on the evidence and the policy guidelines. Specifically, AUD's academic integrity framework, as outlined in its student handbook and admissions policies, mandates a clear procedure for handling academic misconduct. This procedure typically involves an investigation, notification of the applicant, and a hearing or review process where the applicant can present their case. The decision must be consistent with the severity of the offense and the stated consequences within the policy. This ensures due process and upholds the university's commitment to academic honesty, which is a cornerstone of its educational mission. An incorrect approach that involves immediate rejection of the application, without a proper investigation or opportunity for the applicant to respond, violates fundamental principles of fairness and due process. This failure to follow established procedures can lead to accusations of bias and can damage the university's reputation. It disregards the possibility of extenuating circumstances or misunderstandings that might have contributed to the plagiarism. Another incorrect approach, which is to overlook the plagiarism due to recruitment pressures, represents a severe ethical failure. This compromises the academic standards of the university and undermines the value of an AUD degree. It sends a message that academic integrity is negotiable, which is detrimental to the learning environment and the credibility of the institution. Such a decision would be a direct contravention of AUD's stated commitment to fostering an environment of honesty and ethical conduct. A further incorrect approach, such as imposing a penalty that is disproportionately severe or lenient without a clear rationale tied to the policy and the specific circumstances, also constitutes a failure. Decisions regarding academic misconduct must be consistent and justifiable, reflecting the gravity of the offense as defined by the university's policies. Inconsistent application of penalties erodes trust in the admissions process and the university's commitment to fairness. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Identify the relevant university policies and procedures concerning academic integrity and admissions. 2. Gather all factual information related to the alleged misconduct. 3. Ensure the applicant is formally notified of the allegations and provided with an opportunity to present their perspective and any supporting evidence. 4. Conduct a fair and impartial review of the evidence and the applicant's response. 5. Apply the university's policies consistently and judiciously to reach a decision. 6. Document the entire process and the rationale for the final decision. 7. Communicate the decision and its basis to the applicant clearly and respectfully. Question 9. The investigation demonstrates that an applicant to the American University in Dubai entrance exam has submitted an application containing a discrepancy between their stated GPA on the initial form and the GPA reflected in their official transcript. The admissions committee is reviewing this application and must decide on the next course of action. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and ethically sound approach for the admissions committee to take? Option A. Proceed with the application as is, assuming the initial GPA stated was a minor error and the transcript is the accurate reflection. Option B. Accept the applicant's stated GPA from the initial form, assuming it was intentionally provided and the transcript might be inaccurate. Option C. Initiate a process to verify the discrepancy by contacting the applicant for clarification and requesting any supporting documentation that might explain the difference, while also cross-referencing with the issuing institution if necessary. Option D. Immediately reject the application due to the inconsistency, as it suggests a lack of attention to detail or potential misrepresentation. The correct answer is D. Immediately reject the application due to the inconsistency, as it suggests a lack of attention to detail or potential misrepresentation. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where an applicant for the American University in Dubai (AUD) entrance exam has presented information that appears to be inconsistent with their academic records. This situation is professionally challenging because it requires a delicate balance between upholding the integrity of the admissions process and treating applicants fairly. The admissions committee must discern genuine errors or misunderstandings from deliberate attempts to mislead. The university's commitment to academic excellence and ethical conduct necessitates a thorough and fair evaluation of all applications. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the applicant's submitted documents, cross-referencing information with any provided supporting evidence, and potentially seeking clarification directly from the applicant through a structured interview or request for additional documentation. This approach aligns with best practices in admissions, emphasizing due diligence and transparency. Specifically, it adheres to the implicit ethical guidelines of academic institutions to ensure fairness and accuracy in admissions decisions, preventing unqualified individuals from gaining admission and maintaining the university's reputation. This process respects the applicant's right to be heard and to provide context for any discrepancies. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application based solely on the initial perceived inconsistency without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of honest mistakes or extenuating circumstances, potentially leading to an unfair outcome. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the discrepancy entirely, which compromises the integrity of the admissions process and could lead to the admission of an unqualified candidate, thereby undermining the university's academic standards. A third incorrect approach would be to accept the applicant's explanation without any form of verification, which could be exploited by applicants attempting to misrepresent their qualifications. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes evidence-based assessment. This involves 1. Identifying discrepancies and potential issues. 2. Gathering all relevant information and documentation. 3. Applying established university policies and procedures for handling such situations. 4. Seeking clarification and providing the applicant an opportunity to respond. 5. Making a decision based on a comprehensive and fair evaluation of all facts. This structured process ensures that decisions are objective, defensible, and aligned with the institution's values. Question 10. The analysis reveals that an applicant to the American University in Dubai has provided academic transcripts that appear to contain discrepancies when cross-referenced with their stated GPA and the grading scale of their former institution. The admissions committee is considering how to proceed. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and ethically sound course of action for the AUD admissions team? Option A. Contact the applicant to request an explanation for the discrepancies and seek official verification of their academic records from the previous institution. Option B. Immediately reject the application due to the apparent inconsistencies, as this upholds the integrity of the admissions process. Option C. Forward the application to a third-party credential evaluation service without informing the applicant to determine the validity of the transcripts. Option D. Admit the applicant as submitted, assuming the discrepancies are minor and do not significantly impact their overall qualifications. Correct answer is B. Immediately reject the application due to the apparent inconsistencies, as this upholds the integrity of the admissions process. Explanation. The analysis reveals a scenario where a prospective student, applying to the American University in Dubai AUD, has submitted an application that appears to contain inconsistencies regarding their previous academic qualifications. The situation is professionally challenging because it requires the admissions committee to balance the university's commitment to admitting qualified students with the ethical imperative to ensure fairness and transparency in the admissions process. Misjudging the situation could lead to admitting an unqualified student, thereby compromising academic standards, or unfairly rejecting a deserving candidate, damaging the university's reputation. The correct approach involves a thorough, fact-based investigation into the discrepancies. This means seeking clarification directly from the applicant, requesting official documentation to verify their claims, and consulting with previous educational institutions if necessary. This approach aligns with AUD's commitment to academic integrity and fair admissions practices, as outlined in its student handbook and admissions policies, which emphasize the importance of accurate information and due diligence. Ethically, this demonstrates respect for the applicant by giving them an opportunity to explain and rectify any potential errors, while also upholding the university's responsibility to maintain its academic standards. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application based solely on the initial perceived inconsistencies without further investigation. This fails to provide the applicant with due process and could be discriminatory if the discrepancies are due to misunderstandings or clerical errors. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the inconsistencies and admit the student without verification. This undermines academic integrity, potentially admitting a student who is not adequately prepared for AUD's rigorous curriculum, and violates the university's stated commitment to admitting students based on merit and verified qualifications. A third incorrect approach would be to assume the worst of the applicant and make a decision based on suspicion rather than evidence, which is ethically unsound and unprofessional. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic review of all submitted materials, identification of specific areas of concern, a structured process for seeking clarification and verification, and a final decision based on objective evidence and adherence to established university policies and ethical guidelines. This ensures a fair, transparent, and defensible admissions process. Question 11. Operational review demonstrates that a prospective student's submitted academic transcript from a previous institution appears to have inconsistencies with the reported grade point average, GPA, on their application form. The applicant's guardian has contacted the admissions office expressing concern about the student's chances and suggesting that the transcript might have been misread by the admissions team, offering to provide an official copy directly from the previous institution. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer? Option A. Politely inform the guardian that the university relies on the submitted documentation and will proceed with the evaluation based on the current transcript, while also requesting the applicant to provide an official transcript directly from the previous institution for verification. Option B. Immediately reject the applicant's application due to the suspected discrepancy, citing concerns about academic integrity. Option C. Accept the guardian's offer to provide an official copy directly from the previous institution and proceed with the evaluation based on this new document without further scrutiny. Option D. Advise the guardian that the university cannot consider the application further due to the apparent inconsistency, suggesting the applicant reapply once the academic record is clarified. The correct answer is A. Politely inform the guardian that the university relies on the submitted documentation and will proceed with the evaluation based on the current transcript, while also requesting the applicant to provide an official transcript directly from the previous institution for verification. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between academic integrity and the desire to support a prospective student. The admissions committee must balance the university's commitment to admitting qualified individuals with the ethical obligation to ensure that all application materials are genuine and accurately represent the applicant's abilities. Misrepresenting information, even with good intentions, undermines the fairness of the admissions process and the credibility of the university. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective verification of the applicant's submitted credentials. This aligns with the American University in Dubai's AUD, established admissions policies and ethical guidelines, which mandate that all applications be evaluated based on verifiable information. Specifically, AUD's admissions framework, as outlined in its official student handbook and admissions guidelines, emphasizes the importance of academic honesty and the reliance on official transcripts and standardized test scores. By seeking official confirmation of the applicant's academic record, the admissions officer upholds these principles, ensuring a fair evaluation for all applicants and maintaining the integrity of the admissions process. This approach prioritizes transparency and adherence to established procedures, which are fundamental to responsible academic administration. An incorrect approach would be to overlook the discrepancy or to accept the applicant's explanation without independent verification. This would violate the principle of academic integrity by potentially admitting a student based on falsified information. It also fails to uphold AUD's commitment to a merit-based admission system, creating an unfair advantage for this applicant over others who have submitted accurate documentation. Furthermore, accepting unsubstantiated claims erodes trust in the admissions process and could lead to the enrollment of students who are not adequately prepared for the academic rigor of the university, potentially impacting academic standards and the overall student experience. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the applicant without further investigation. While maintaining integrity is crucial, a hasty rejection without attempting to clarify the discrepancy might overlook a genuine administrative error or a misunderstanding. A more professional approach would involve a structured process of inquiry and verification before making a final decision. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Identify the discrepancy or potential issue. 2. Consult relevant university policies and ethical guidelines. 3. Gather objective evidence to verify or refute the discrepancy. This might involve direct communication with the applicant, requesting official documentation from previous institutions, or consulting with relevant university departments. 4. Make a decision based on the verified facts and in accordance with established policies. 5. Document the entire process and the rationale for the final decision. This structured approach ensures fairness, transparency, and adherence to professional and ethical standards. Question 12. To address the challenge of ensuring academic integrity in submitted assignments at the American University in Dubai, a faculty member suspects that a student's essay may contain plagiarized content. The faculty member has access to plagiarism detection software. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and ethically sound course of action? Strictly adhering to the principles expected within the American University in Dubai's academic framework. Option A. Use plagiarism detection software to scan the essay, and if a significant percentage of text is flagged, proceed with a formal investigation according to university policy, which includes informing the student and providing an opportunity for them to respond. Option B. Ignore the suspicion of plagiarism to avoid potential conflict with the student and maintain a positive student-faculty relationship. Option C. Immediately assign a failing grade to the student for the assignment and report them for academic misconduct without further investigation. Option D. Confront the student directly with the accusation of plagiarism and demand an explanation before any formal process is initiated. The correct answer is C. Immediately assign a failing grade to the student for the assignment and report them for academic misconduct without further investigation. Explanation. The scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and uphold the reputation of the American University in Dubai Awd. Students are expected to submit original work, and any form of academic dishonesty, including plagiarism, undermines the learning process and the value of the degree. The challenge lies in identifying and addressing potential plagiarism effectively and fairly, adhering to AUD's established academic policies and procedures. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between unintentional errors and deliberate misconduct. The correct approach involves a thorough and systematic investigation of the submitted work, utilizing plagiarism detection software as a preliminary tool, followed by a careful manual review of any flagged content. This approach aligns with AUD's commitment to academic integrity, as outlined in its student handbook and academic policies, which typically mandate a process for addressing academic misconduct. This process usually involves notifying the student, providing them an opportunity to respond, and then making a determination based on evidence and established university guidelines. This ensures fairness and due process for the student while upholding the university's standards. An incorrect approach of immediately failing the student without further investigation fails to provide due process and may lead to an unfair outcome if the plagiarism was unintentional or minor. This violates principles of fairness and academic justice. Another incorrect approach of ignoring the potential plagiarism to avoid conflict or administrative burden is a dereliction of professional duty and compromises academic standards, potentially damaging the university's reputation. Furthermore, directly confronting the student with accusations without a formal process or evidence can be unprofessional and may lead to legal or reputational repercussions for the university. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established policies and ethical principles. This involves 1. Recognizing a potential issue and its implications. 2. Consulting relevant institutional policies and guidelines. 3. Gathering evidence systematically and objectively. 4. Following a defined procedure for investigation and resolution, ensuring fairness and transparency. 5. Documenting all steps taken and decisions made. Question 13. The review process indicates that during the American University in Dubai entrance examination, a proctor reported observing an applicant exhibiting behavior that raised concerns about potential academic dishonesty. The proctor's notes describe the applicant repeatedly glancing at a small, concealed device. The admissions committee must decide how to proceed. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action according to best practices for university entrance examinations? Option A. Immediately disqualify the applicant from admission and ban them from future applications to AUD based on the proctor's suspicion. Option B. Forward the proctor's report to the applicant's previous educational institution for their disciplinary review and await their findings before making any decision. Option C. Conduct a thorough investigation into the alleged misconduct, including reviewing the proctor's detailed report, examining the applicant's examination materials for any anomalies, and providing the applicant with an opportunity to explain their actions before making a final decision. Option D. Issue a warning to the applicant about maintaining focus during the exam and allow their application to proceed without further inquiry, assuming the proctor's observation was a minor distraction. The correct answer is A. Immediately disqualify the applicant from admission and ban them from future applications to AUD based on the proctor's suspicion. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge related to academic integrity and the application of university policies. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need to uphold the university standards for academic honesty with the requirement to provide a fair and supportive environment for students, especially during an entrance examination. The admissions committee must make a judgment that is both procedurally sound and ethically defensible, adhering strictly to the American University in Dubai's AUD established guidelines for entrance exams. The correct approach involves a thorough, impartial investigation that prioritizes gathering all relevant facts before making a decision. This means reviewing the evidence of potential misconduct, considering any mitigating circumstances or explanations provided by the applicant, and then applying the AUD's specific disciplinary procedures for academic dishonesty as outlined in its official regulations. This approach is correct because it aligns with principles of due process and fairness, ensuring that decisions are based on evidence and established rules, not assumptions or immediate punitive action. It upholds the integrity of the admissions process and the academic standards of AUD by demonstrating a commitment to consistent and equitable application of its policies. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the applicant based solely on the proctor's suspicion, without further investigation. This fails to adhere to AUD's procedural requirements for handling suspected academic dishonesty, which likely mandate a review process. It also risks an unfair judgment, as the suspicion might be unfounded or based on a misunderstanding. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the incident entirely, perhaps due to pressure to admit a certain number of students. This would undermine the university's commitment to academic integrity and set a dangerous precedent, potentially allowing unqualified or dishonest individuals to gain admission. Finally, an approach that involves imposing a penalty without clear evidence or a defined process, such as a blanket ban from all future AUD programs without due consideration, would also be procedurally flawed and ethically questionable. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes fact-finding, adherence to established policy, and fairness. This involves 1. Documenting the incident thoroughly. 2. Notifying the applicant of the suspicion and providing an opportunity to respond. 3. Consulting the relevant AUD admissions and academic integrity policies. 4. Convening a committee or designated body to review the evidence and the applicant's response. 5. Making a decision based on the findings and policy with clear justification. 6. Communicating the decision and any consequences to the applicant in writing. Question 14. What factors determine the most appropriate weighting of an applicant's standardized entrance exam scores in relation to their high school academic performance and personal statement when assessing their suitability for admission to the American University in Dubai, adhering strictly to the university's entrance exam guidelines? Option A. The perceived prestige of the applicant's high school and the number of extracurricular activities listed on their application. Option B. The applicant's demonstrated ability to articulate their goals and motivations clearly in their personal statement, alongside a consistent record of strong academic achievement throughout high school. Option C. The applicant's performance on the standardized entrance exam, with minimal consideration given to their high school grades or personal statement. Option D. The applicant's highest score achieved on any single section of the standardized entrance exam, irrespective of other application components. Correct answer is B. The applicant's demonstrated ability to articulate their goals and motivations clearly in their personal statement, alongside a consistent record of strong academic achievement throughout high school. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only academic aptitude, but also an understanding of the ethical and regulatory considerations relevant to higher education admissions, specifically within the context of the American University in Dubai's entrance exam framework. The challenge lies in discerning between genuine academic merit and potentially misleading or unethical attempts to gain an advantage, necessitating careful judgment aligned with the university's stated principles. The correct approach involves a comprehensive evaluation of the applicant's overall profile, including their academic record, standardized test scores, personal essays, and any supplementary materials, viewed holistically. This approach is justified by the American University in Dubai's commitment to admitting students who possess a strong academic foundation and demonstrate potential for success in their chosen programs. The university's admissions guidelines, which are implicitly part of the regulatory framework for this entrance exam, emphasize a balanced assessment that looks beyond a single metric. This aligns with best practices in higher education admissions, which aim to identify well-rounded individuals who will contribute positively to the university community. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on a single, high-scoring component of the application, such as a particularly strong performance on one section of the entrance exam, while overlooking potential weaknesses or inconsistencies elsewhere. This is professionally unacceptable because it fails to provide a complete picture of the applicant's capabilities and potential. It could lead to admitting students who may struggle to meet the academic demands of the program or who may not align with the university's values. Another incorrect approach is to give undue weight to extracurricular activities that appear impressive but lack demonstrable impact or relevance to the applicant's academic pursuits. This can be misleading and does not necessarily predict academic success. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes anecdotal evidence or personal recommendations over objective academic indicators would be flawed, as it relies on subjective assessments that may not be consistently reliable or comparable across applicants. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of all application components, guided by the established admissions criteria of the American University in Dubai. Admissions officers must be trained to identify patterns, inconsistencies, and potential red flags. They should employ a rubric or scoring system that ensures fair and equitable evaluation across all applicants, while also allowing for nuanced judgment based on the totality of the evidence presented. The focus should always be on identifying candidates who demonstrate both the academic preparedness and the personal qualities that will enable them to thrive at the university and contribute to its mission. Question 15. The control framework reveals that an applicant with a strong personal connection to a senior faculty member is being considered for admission to the American University in Dubai. The faculty member has informally requested that the admissions committee give this applicant special consideration due to their relationship, despite the applicant's academic profile being borderline according to the standard evaluation metrics, which approach best aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fair admissions within the university's regulatory environment. Option A. Advocate for the applicant's admission by highlighting the personal connection to the faculty member to the admissions committee, suggesting that this relationship might bring unique value to the university. Option B. Strictly adhere to the established admissions criteria and evaluate the applicant solely on their academic merit and suitability for the program, without regard to the personal connection. Option C. Discreetly inform the admissions committee about the faculty member's request and suggest they consider the applicant favorably, framing it as a potential opportunity for a valuable connection. Option D. Inform the faculty member that, while their request is noted, the applicant's admission will be contingent on meeting the standard criteria, but proceed to subtly lower the threshold for this specific applicant to accommodate the request. The correct answer is B. Strictly adhere to the established admissions criteria and evaluate the applicant solely on their academic merit and suitability for the program, without regard to the personal connection. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate potential conflicts of interest and uphold academic integrity within the context of university admissions. The pressure to admit a candidate based on personal connections, rather than solely on merit and adherence to established criteria, can compromise the fairness and reputation of the American University in Dubai. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all admissions decisions are made transparently and equitably, in accordance with the university's stated policies and ethical guidelines. The correct approach involves a commitment to the established admissions criteria and a refusal to be swayed by external influence. This upholds the principle of meritocracy, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated on a level playing field. Specifically, it aligns with the American University in Dubai's likely commitment to fair and objective admissions processes, which are fundamental to maintaining academic standards and institutional integrity. Adhering to these principles prevents any perception of favoritism or bias, thereby safeguarding the university's reputation. An incorrect approach that prioritizes the personal connection over established criteria fails to uphold the university's commitment to fair admissions. This action could be seen as a breach of ethical conduct, potentially violating internal university policies regarding admissions and conflicts of interest. It undermines the integrity of the admissions process by introducing an element of undue influence, which is detrimental to the academic environment. Another incorrect approach, which involves seeking to subtly influence the admissions committee without full disclosure, is also professionally unacceptable. This circumvents the proper channels for decision-making and can create an environment of distrust. It fails to address the core issue of potential bias directly and instead attempts to manipulate the process, which is ethically unsound and likely against university guidelines for transparency and accountability. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admissions policies and ethical codes. When faced with a request that appears to conflict with these guidelines, a professional should first seek clarification of the relevant policies. If a conflict is identified, the appropriate action is to decline the request and explain that decisions must be based on established criteria. Escalating the matter to a supervisor or the admissions committee, if necessary, ensures that the decision-making process remains transparent and accountable, thereby protecting both the individual and the institution from ethical breaches. Question 16. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to securing financial resources for institutional growth. The American University in Dubai is considering several potential funding opportunities. Which of the following approaches best aligns with ethical fundraising practices and the long-term strategic interests of the university? Option A. Prioritize securing the largest potential donation from any source, regardless of the donor's background or the potential reputational implications for the university. Option B. Conduct thorough due diligence on all potential donors, assessing their alignment with the university's mission and values, and ensuring transparency in the intended use of funds before accepting any contribution. Option C. Accept donations primarily from individuals or organizations with a history of significant financial contributions, without a detailed review of their broader affiliations or the potential impact on the university's public image. Option D. Focus exclusively on short-term funding needs, accepting any donation that can be immediately utilized to address urgent budgetary gaps, without considering the donor's long-term impact or ethical standing. Correct answer is A. Prioritize securing the largest potential donation from any source, regardless of the donor's background or the potential reputational implications for the university. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for resources with the long-term sustainability and ethical implications of fundraising. The American University in Dubai (AUD) operates within a specific regulatory environment in Dubai, which governs fundraising activities and requires adherence to ethical standards to maintain public trust and institutional integrity. Careful judgment is needed to ensure that fundraising efforts align with AUD's mission and values and comply with local regulations. The correct approach involves a comprehensive assessment of potential donors, focusing on alignment with AUD's mission and values, and ensuring transparency in how funds will be used. This aligns with best practices in institutional advancement and ethical fundraising, which are implicitly guided by the principles of good governance and responsible stewardship expected of educational institutions in Dubai. Such an approach prioritizes building sustainable relationships with donors who are genuinely invested in the university's success, rather than solely focusing on immediate financial gain. This also implicitly aligns with the spirit of regulations that aim to prevent misuse of funds and ensure accountability. An approach that prioritizes securing funds from any source without due diligence fails to uphold ethical fundraising standards. This could lead to accepting donations from entities or individuals whose interests conflict with AUD's mission, potentially compromising academic freedom or institutional reputation. Such a failure would be a breach of ethical responsibility and could also contravene any implicit or explicit regulations in Dubai that govern the acceptance of donations, particularly those that might be linked to illicit activities or pose reputational risks. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on the largest potential donation without considering the donor's background or the potential impact on the university's image, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of foresight and a disregard for the long-term consequences of accepting funds that might be controversial or associated with unethical practices. This could lead to significant reputational damage and may also violate regulatory expectations for due diligence in financial dealings. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured evaluation of all potential fundraising avenues. This includes establishing clear criteria for donor suitability, conducting thorough background checks, and ensuring that all proposed donations are reviewed by relevant university stakeholders, such as the Advancement Office, legal counsel, and senior leadership. The process should prioritize transparency, ethical considerations, and alignment with the university's strategic goals and values, ensuring compliance with the spirit and letter of any applicable regulations in Dubai. Question 17. The performance metrics show a significant dip in student engagement and completion rates in several core undergraduate courses during the last academic semester. Which of the following represents the most appropriate initial step for the academic department to take? Option A. Immediately communicate to the faculty teaching these courses that their teaching methods are likely the cause of the decline and suggest mandatory retraining. Option B. Advise students in these courses that their performance is unsatisfactory and that failure is a strong possibility without further investigation into the underlying causes. Option C. Disregard the performance metrics as potentially flawed and continue with the existing curriculum and teaching strategies without modification. Option D. Initiate a review of the performance metrics by cross-referencing them with AUD's published academic regulations and student support policies to identify potential contributing factors and determine appropriate, policy-aligned interventions. The correct answer is D. Initiate a review of the performance metrics by cross-referencing them with AUD's published academic regulations and student support policies to identify potential contributing factors and determine appropriate, policy-aligned interventions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in academic institutions where performance data needs to be interpreted and acted upon. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that any actions taken based on performance metrics are fair, transparent, and align with the American University in Dubai's established academic policies and ethical guidelines. Misinterpreting data or acting impulsively can lead to unfair outcomes for students and damage the institution's reputation. The need for careful judgment arises from balancing the desire for academic excellence with the principles of due process and student support. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the performance metrics, cross-referencing them with AUD's official academic regulations and student handbooks. This ensures that any decisions are grounded in established policy, providing a clear and justifiable basis for action. This approach upholds principles of fairness and transparency by adhering to predefined academic standards and procedures. It also allows for the identification of potential systemic issues that might be affecting student performance, rather than solely focusing on individual outcomes. This aligns with AUD's commitment to academic integrity and student success by ensuring that interventions are evidence-based and procedurally sound. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately implement punitive measures for students whose metrics fall below a certain threshold without further investigation. This fails to consider potential mitigating circumstances or the possibility of data misinterpretation. It violates ethical principles of fairness and due process by assuming guilt or deficiency without proper inquiry. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the performance metrics as unreliable without any attempt to validate or understand them. This neglects the institution's responsibility to monitor academic standards and identify areas for improvement. It can lead to a decline in academic quality and a failure to support students who may genuinely be struggling. A third incorrect approach is to make broad generalizations about student capabilities based on a single set of metrics without considering other qualitative factors or the context of the courses. This is an oversimplification that can lead to inaccurate assessments and potentially discriminatory practices. It fails to recognize the multifaceted nature of academic achievement. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic settings should adopt a systematic and policy-driven approach. This involves 1. Data verification. Ensure the accuracy and integrity of the performance metrics. 2. Policy review. Consult relevant institutional policies and guidelines. 3. Contextual analysis. Consider all relevant factors, including course design, teaching methods, and student support services. 4. Fair process. Implement a transparent and equitable process for addressing performance issues, including opportunities for students to respond or seek clarification. 5. Evidence-based action. Base all decisions on a comprehensive understanding of the data and institutional policies. Question 18. The performance metrics show a slight dip in one specific academic area for an otherwise strong applicant to the American University in Dubai's undergraduate program. As an admissions officer, how should the situation be handled to ensure a fair and comprehensive evaluation? Option A. Conduct a holistic review of the applicant's entire profile, considering all academic achievements, extracurricular activities, essays, and recommendations, in conjunction with the AUD admissions guidelines to understand the context of the performance dip. Option B. Focus solely on the performance metrics, assuming they are the most critical indicators of future success, and disregard other aspects of the application. Option C. Recommend that the applicant be placed on a waitlist due to the uncertainty presented by the underperforming metric, without a full review of their complete application. Option D. Immediately reject the applicant based on the underperforming metric, as it indicates a potential weakness that may not align with AUD's academic standards. The correct answer is A. Conduct a holistic review of the applicant's entire profile, considering all academic achievements, extracurricular activities, essays, and recommendations, in conjunction with the AUD admissions guidelines, to understand the context of the performance dip. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to academic integrity and the ethical responsibilities of an admissions officer. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to admitting qualified students with the imperative to uphold fair and transparent admissions processes. Misinterpreting or misapplying admissions criteria, even with good intentions, can lead to unfair outcomes for applicants and damage the university's reputation. The need for careful judgment arises from the potential for subjective interpretation of performance metrics and the importance of adhering to established university guidelines. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's entire profile against the established admissions criteria for the American University in Dubai AUD. This means not solely focusing on one metric, but considering the holistic performance of the applicant, including their academic record, extracurricular activities, essays, and any other supporting documents, as outlined in AUD's admissions guidelines. This approach is ethically sound because it ensures fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants, adhering to the principle of meritocracy. It is also procedurally correct as it follows the established framework for evaluating candidates, preventing arbitrary decisions. Incorrect approach is analysis. Focusing solely on the performance metrics without considering the applicant's context or other aspects of their application is an incorrect approach. This fails to acknowledge that performance metrics are often indicators and not definitive judgments. It can lead to overlooking strong candidates who may have had extenuating circumstances affecting a particular metric, but excel in other areas. This approach risks violating the ethical principle of fairness by creating a rigid, one-size-fits-all evaluation that may not accurately reflect an applicant's potential. Recommending immediate rejection based on a single underperforming metric without further investigation or consultation with the admissions committee is also an incorrect approach. It bypasses the established procedural steps for evaluating applicants and demonstrates a lack of due diligence. Ethically, it is unfair to an applicant to be dismissed without a comprehensive review. It also undermines the collaborative nature of admissions decisions, which often involve multiple perspectives to ensure a balanced assessment, suggesting that the applicant's performance metrics might be a result of a less rigorous curriculum from their previous institution. Without any concrete evidence or established AUD policy to support such a generalization, is speculative and potentially biased. This approach introduces an unsubstantiated assumption into the evaluation process. It is ethically problematic as it relies on potentially prejudiced reasoning rather than objective assessment of the applicant's submitted materials and qualifications, and it deviates from the established, objective criteria set forth by AUD. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions should employ a systematic and fair evaluation process. This involves understanding and applying the university's stated admissions policies and criteria consistently. When faced with ambiguous or concerning data, the professional decision-making process should include seeking clarification, consulting with colleagues or supervisors, and ensuring that all decisions are well documented and justifiable based on the established framework. The core principle is to treat each applicant equitably and to make decisions based on objective evidence and established guidelines, rather than assumptions or incomplete information. Question 19. The performance metrics show a slight decline in the enrollment of international students for the upcoming academic year, and an international applicant presents with academic transcripts that appear to have minor inconsistencies in grading scales compared to AUD standard. The applicant is otherwise well-rounded with strong extracurricular involvement. The admissions committee is considering how to proceed with this application. Option A. Thoroughly review the applicant's academic credentials against AUD's published admission criteria for international students, seeking clarification on grading scale equivalencies if necessary, and assess their overall suitability based on all provided documentation. Option B. Propose creating a temporary ad hoc admission pathway for this applicant to accommodate the grading scale differences, without formal policy review. Option C. Admit the applicant by overlooking the minor inconsistencies in the grading scales to help meet the enrollment targets for international students. Option D. Accept the applicant based on a strong recommendation from a faculty member who knows the applicant's potential, without independently verifying the grading scale equivalencies. The correct answer is A. Thoroughly review the applicant's academic credentials against AUD's published admission criteria for international students, seeking clarification on grading scale equivalencies if necessary, and assess their overall suitability based on all provided documentation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's academic integrity with the need to attract qualified international students. The admissions committee must adhere strictly to the American University in Dubai's AUD, established admission policies, and the regulatory framework governing international student admissions in Dubai, which emphasizes transparency and fair evaluation. Misinterpreting or circumventing these policies can lead to regulatory violations, damage the university's reputation, and unfairly disadvantage applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's academic credentials against AUD's published admission criteria for international students, including any specific requirements for equivalency of qualifications. This approach is ethically sound and regulatorily compliant because it upholds the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants based on objective, predefined standards. It ensures that admissions decisions are fair, consistent, and defensible, aligning with AUD's commitment to academic excellence and its obligations under Dubai's educational regulations. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking discrepancies in the applicant's academic records to meet a perceived institutional need for international enrollment would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This circumvents the established admission process, potentially admitting underqualified students and undermining the academic rigor of AUD. It violates the principle of fairness and could lead to accusations of preferential treatment, damaging the university's credibility. Another incorrect approach that involves accepting a recommendation from a faculty member without independent verification of the applicant's qualifications is also professionally unacceptable. Faculty input is valuable. The ultimate responsibility for verifying credentials and ensuring compliance with admission policies rests with the admissions committee. Relying solely on a recommendation bypasses due diligence and can lead to admitting students who do not meet the required academic standards, thereby compromising AUD's academic integrity and potentially violating admission regulations. A third incorrect approach that involves creating a special admission category for this applicant without clear policy justification or regulatory approval is problematic. Such ad hoc decisions can create precedents that are difficult to manage, lead to inconsistencies in admissions, and may not be compliant with the overarching regulatory framework for higher education institutions in Dubai. It lacks transparency and fairness. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of all submitted documentation against AUD's official admission policies and relevant Dubai regulations. If any ambiguities or discrepancies arise, the committee should seek clarification from the applicant or relevant university departments. Decisions should always be based on established criteria, ensuring fairness, transparency, and compliance. If a policy exception is contemplated, it must be clearly defined, consistently applied, and approved through the appropriate institutional channels, ensuring it aligns with regulatory requirements. Question 20. The performance metrics show a significant discrepancy between the GPA reported on an applicant's high school transcript and the GPA indicated in their standardized test score report for admission to the American University in Dubai. The applicant is otherwise highly qualified. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer? Option A. Proceed with the application review. Flag the discrepancy for the admissions committee to address during their final deliberations without further independent verification. Option B. Contact the applicant's high school and the testing agency to verify the accuracy of both reported GPAs and request official documentation to resolve the discrepancy before making a decision. Option C. Immediately reject the application due to the conflicting academic information, as it suggests a potential misrepresentation of qualifications. Option D. Accept the application based on the applicant's overall strong profile, assuming the GPA discrepancy is a minor clerical error that will be rectified later. The correct answer is C. Immediately reject the application due to the conflicting academic information, as it suggests a potential misrepresentation of qualifications. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to academic integrity and the ethical responsibilities of an admissions officer at the American University in Dubai. The core difficulty lies in balancing the university's commitment to admitting qualified students with the imperative to uphold the integrity of the admissions process and prevent fraudulent applications. The admissions officer must exercise sound judgment, adhering strictly to AUD's established policies and relevant UAE educational regulations, which emphasize honesty, transparency, and fair evaluation. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective, and documented investigation into the discrepancies. This entails cross-referencing the applicant's submitted documents with official records, seeking clarification from the applicant directly in a structured manner, and consulting with relevant university departments, e.g., academic affairs, legal counsel, if necessary. This methodical process ensures that any decision made is based on verifiable facts and aligns with AUD's commitment to academic standards and ethical conduct, as mandated by the Ministry of Education's guidelines for higher education institutions in the UAE, which stress the importance of accurate representation of qualifications. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the application outright without proper investigation. This fails to provide the applicant with due process and could lead to an unfair rejection based on unsubstantiated suspicion. It also risks overlooking a genuine misunderstanding or error, which could be rectified. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the application despite the clear discrepancies, thereby compromising the integrity of the admissions process and potentially admitting a student who does not meet the required academic standards. This violates the principle of fair competition among applicants and undermines the reputation of AUD. Furthermore, ignoring the discrepancies and proceeding without addressing them could expose the university to future academic or legal challenges. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes evidence-based assessment, adherence to institutional policy, and ethical considerations. This involves 1. Identifying the discrepancy and its potential implications. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and UAE educational regulations. 3. Gathering all necessary information and documentation. 4. Seeking clarification from the applicant in a fair and transparent manner. 5. Documenting all steps taken and decisions made. 6. Escalating the matter to appropriate university authorities if the situation warrants it. This structured approach ensures that decisions are defensible, ethical, and in line with the university's mission and regulatory obligations.